Types of society, or types of social organization. When people ask you what sociology is, the simplest answer is that sociology studies society. While this is true, a deeper understanding can be obtained by understanding the kinds of questions that sociology asks, and more importantly, why people started asking those questions in the first place. Sociology asks, what is society? How does it work? How does it change? How does it influence those within it? And I think most importantly might be, what holds it together? It may seem rather obvious, but there are different kinds of society. Not all societies are the same. For one thing, societies come in different sizes. There are small hunter-gatherer societies made up of a few individuals or groups, and there are very large modern societies like China, made up of billions of individuals. While all societies have some things in common, that's what makes them societies, this idea that there are fundamental differences between different kinds of society is an important idea in classical sociological theory. Indeed, understanding these differences is basically how sociology started. The founding fathers of sociology, Karl Marx, Max Weber, Emil Durkheim, and George Simmel, some people would argue about George, but I include him, had different ideas about the nature of society and the social order. And while they had very different motivations and approaches and philosophies, they were all motivated in part or driven to think sociologically by one thing. That was specifically the changes they saw happening around them. The idea here is that society itself was changing in fundamental ways from one thing or one kind of a thing into another kind of thing. Society was changing its nature. In a very broad way, we refer to this time and period of change as the Enlightenment, the Renaissance, or the Protestant Reformation in Western Europe. Again, the idea being that after these events, society had changed in fundamental ways. It was these changes that led these founding individuals to start asking these kinds of questions. The fact that society changed led them to ask these questions about what society is, how it works, and what holds it together. Today, we can group societies into three categories, very broadly and loosely. Pre-modern, sometimes in older literature you'll see the words primitive or traditional, but of course there's a negative connotation there. Modern societies and postmodern societies. These founding individuals were motivated primarily by the change from pre-modern to modern society in Western Europe. I would argue that this period of change really began around the 1500s and probably lasted, you could say, as late as the 1900s. And there are still places in the world that are experiencing this change right now. The modern to postmodern shift, I would argue, began, at least in the West, probably after World War II. A key factor there being communication technologies. In any case, societies can be classified into these different groups based on certain things. Another way of saying this is that societies change from one kind to another because of changes in these particular factors. Of primary importance is population change, division of labor, specialization, changes in rationality. Technology changes, I think, are some of the most important. Changes in diversity and deviance, changes in living arrangements. Do people live in the countryside in rural communities, or do they live in big cities in urban communities? And then, of course, how actually are individuals connected to one another? I will talk about these ideas in the other videos, and in specifically as I talk about each one of these kinds of societies, I will tie them into these other ideas. Basic lesson is that there are different kinds of society, and these factors make a society what it is, put it into one category or the other. When we try to understand society, these are the kinds of things we look at to understand what keeps that society together, what makes that society work. Thank you for watching.